a flash of movement in the dense Cretaceous ferns. A predator watches its prey, but its deadliest weapon is not in its jaws. Held high off the ground, kept perpetually sharp, is a 5-inch, sickle-shaped claw. This was not an instrument for walking or digging. It was a terrible talon, an instrument of attack designed for a single, lethal purpose. This was the signature weapon of a creature that would single-handedly rewrite the dinosaur rulebook. This was the world of Deinonychus, an agile, intelligent predator that shattered the image of dinosaurs as slow, lumbering beasts. In today's video, we open its complete scientific profile. We will journey to its ancient world, analyze its lethal anatomy, uncover its hunting strategies, delve into the revolutionary debates it ignited, and tell the story of its immortal legacy. Subscribing ensures you won't miss a single discovery. Now, let's journey back in time and uncover the story of a lost world. Our investigation takes us back to the Early Cretaceous period, a chapter in Earth's history unfolding between 115 and 108 million years ago. This is a world tens of millions of years before the reign of Tyrannosaurus Rex, a time with its own unique cast of titans. The stage for our story is a vast floodplain that once stretched across the interior of North America. Today, this ancient landscape is preserved within the rocky layers of the Cloverleaf and Antlers formations, exposed in the arid hills of modern-day Montana, Wyoming, and Oklahoma. This was not a uniform, lush jungle. It was a world of contrasts, a subtropical environment shaped by distinct wet and dry seasons. For months, the sun would beat down on wide, semi-arid plains and open woodlands. Rivers would shrink, and life would concentrate around the remaining water sources. Then, the rains would come, transforming the parched landscape into a verdant floodplain, swelling the rivers and creating lush, swampy lowlands. This seasonal pulse dictated the rhythm of life, driving migrations and creating a challenging environment where only the most adaptable could thrive. The flora was a mix of ancient lineages. Towering conifers and primitive ginkgo trees lined the riverbanks, providing shade and shelter. The undergrowth was a thick carpet of ferns and horsetails. But a key feature of the landscape was the abundance of cycads, tough, stout, palm-like plants that were a primary food source for the region's large herbivores. There was no grass. This was a world of hardy, fibrous vegetation. Into this world walked our protagonist. But to understand Deinonychus, we must first understand its neighbors, for this was truly a land of giants. The most common large herbivore, and a key figure in our predator's story, was Tenontosaurus. This was a heavily built ornithopod, stretching up to 8 meters, 26 feet long, and weighing over a ton. Its defense lying in its immense bulk and a tremendously long, muscular tail. The ground also trembled under the footsteps of colossal sauropods, long-necked titans that were living mountains of flesh. And watching them all from the top of the food chain was the apex predator, Acrocanthosaurus, a carnosaur almost the size of a T-Rex, with a formidable sail on its back. This was the world Deinonychus had to navigate. It was not the largest or the strongest predator on the floodplain. It was a mid-sized carnivore in a world of giants, a creature that needed speed, intelligence, and a specialized weapon to survive and hunt prey many times its own size. To survive in this challenging world, our predator evolved a sophisticated and lethal anatomy, a fact enshrined in its very name. It is called Deinonychus antirrhopus, The first part, Deinonychus, is Greek for terrible claw, a direct and fitting tribute to its most formidable weapon. The second part, Anti-Rhopus, means counterbalancing, a name that speaks to the unique engineering of its tail and the dynamic, agile lifestyle it enabled. First, we must correct the image from popular culture. Deinonychus was not a human-sized monster. It was a lean, athletic predator built for speed and precision. An adult would measure up to 3-4 meters, about 11 feet, from snout to tail tip, but much of that was its long, stiff tail. Standing, its head would have reached the hip of an average human, and it weighed between 70 and 100 kilograms, 150 to 220 pounds, comparable to a modern gray wolf or a leopard. It was an animal defined not by overwhelming size, but by its wiry strength and specialized toolkit. Its skull was long, narrow, but strongly constructed, with large openings that reduced weight without sacrificing strength. Its jaws were lined with around 70 sharp, serrated teeth, curved backward to prevent prey from escaping. They were designed to rip and tear flesh, not to crush bone. Large eye sockets suggest it had excellent stereoscopic vision, critical for judging distance during a high-speed chase. Furthermore, the size of its brain case in relation to its body was large for a dinosaur, hinting at a higher level of intelligence necessary for complex predatory behavior. Its arms were surprisingly long and powerful, ending in 3-fingered hands equipped with sharp, grasping talons. These were not feeble appendages, but robust tools for seizing and manipulating prey, much like the hands of a modern eagle. Its legs were slender and muscular, the bones of the lower leg elongated in a way that is characteristic of fast runners. While not a long-distance marathoner, Deinonychus was built for explosive acceleration and agility, allowing it to close distances with terrifying speed. This agility was made possible by its unique tail. Unlike the flexible tails of most reptiles, the tail of Deinonychus was stiffened by a sheath of overlapping bony rods, known as ossified tendons. This turned the entire tail into a rigid pole. Far from being a hindrance, this was a dynamic stabilizer. When running at high speed and needing to change direction, it could swing this rigid tail like a rudder, maintaining perfect balance through the sharpest of turns, an essential tool for outmaneuvering its prey. And finally, we arrive at its namesake, the terrible claw. On each foot, the second toe was a specialized killing instrument. It was hyperextensible, meaning it could be raised off the ground as the animal walked and ran, protecting the weapon's razor-sharp point. The claw itself was a massive 13-centimeter, 5-inch sickle of bone. For decades, it was imagined to be a slashing weapon used to disembowel prey with powerful kicks. However, modern analysis suggests a different, perhaps even more terrifying, function. Like a modern bird of prey, Deinonychus may have used its incredible leaping ability to pounce onto its victim, sinking the terrible claws deep into the flesh, not to slash, but to pin. Once the prey was anchored, unable to escape, the predator could use its powerful arms to grip and its tearing teeth to finish the job. It was a complete and devastating predatory machine. Armed with this lethal anatomy, Deinonychus was an incredibly effective hunter. Its life was a constant search for opportunity, a cycle of patient observation and explosive action. With its large, forward-facing eyes providing excellent depth perception and a brain capable of complex thought, it would have perceived its world with a clarity unknown to most other dinosaurs. It was an intelligent hunter in a world often ruled by brute force. The primary evidence for its diet comes from one of the most dramatic fossil scenes ever discovered. At several sites in the Cloverleaf Formation, paleontologists have found the skeletons of multiple Deinonychus, preserved alongside the remains of a single, much larger herbivore, the bulky ornithopod Tenontosaurus. The teeth of Deinonychus were even found among the herbivore's bones. This recurring fossil association is a prehistoric crime scene, pointing strongly to Tenontosaurus as a key item on the menu. But like any successful predator, Deinonychus would have been an opportunist. It would have readily hunted smaller dinosaurs, primitive mammals, lizards, and would not have turned down a meal of carrion when available. The question of how it hunted such large prey is the very thing that made Deinonychus a legend. A single 100-kilogram Deinonychus would be taking an immense risk attacking a 1,000-kilogram Tenontosaurus. This stark size difference gave rise to the most influential theory about its behavior: that Deinonychus hunted in coordinated, intelligent packs. The fossil evidence of multiple predators around a single prey animal strongly suggests this possibility. If this theory is correct, the hunt would have been a masterful display of strategy and communication. Picture a small group, moving with disciplined stealth through the ferns. Using their intelligence, they would coordinate their attack, not unlike a modern wolf pack. Some members might launch diversionary attacks, harrying the giant herbivore from the front, forcing it to focus on them. This would create an opening for the lead attacker to burst from cover, closing the distance in a few powerful strides. A prodigious leap, and the attack begins. The terrible claws would strike, not slashing, but hooking deep into the victim's hide, anchoring the predator to its much larger prey. Once latched on, its grasping hands and slicing teeth would go to work. With the prey pinned and wounded, the rest of the pack would move in, overwhelming the giant through combined, relentless effort. In the complex food web of the Early Cretaceous, Deinonychus occupied the role of a mesopredator, a mid-rank carnivore. While it was a formidable hunter of animals like Tenontosaurus, it was by no means the king of its environment. That title belonged to the colossal Acrocanthosaurus, a predator that would have dwarfed Deinonychus. Our protagonist would have had to live in the shadow of this giant, always vigilant, not only for prey, but for this far greater threat. A pack of Deinonychus might have been able to intimidate a lone Acrocanthosaurus and steal a kill through sheer numbers and audacity, but a direct confrontation would have been a death sentence. Life for Deinonychus was a precarious balance. It was both a fearsome hunter and, at times, the hunted. The discovery of Deinonychus did more than introduce a new predator to the prehistoric bestiary. It ignited a firestorm of debate that would fundamentally change our entire perception of dinosaurs. This single animal became the poster child for a scientific revolution, forcing us to abandon old dogmas and look at these creatures in a new, dynamic light. The controversies it sparked are central to its legacy. First is the debate over its social life. As we've seen, the classic theory of pack hunting is based on compelling fossil evidence of multiple Deinonychus found with the remains of a single, large Tenontosaurus. For many, this is a clear indication of a coordinated group attack, a prehistoric parallel to a wolf pack. However, science demands that we consider all possibilities. Some researchers have challenged this view, proposing an alternative scenario that is less cooperative and more chaotic. They point to modern reptiles like Komodo dragons, which often gather at a kill site but do not hunt together. Instead, they engage in a violent feeding frenzy, fighting with each other over the carcass. In this interpretation, the fossil sites might not represent a pack that lived and died together, but a mob of solitary hunters drawn to a struggling Tyrannosaurus. In the ensuing chaos, some of the Deinonychus may have been injured or killed by the prey's desperate defense, or even by each other. The truth may lie somewhere in between, a form of social predation that has no perfect modern analog. Even more profound was the debate Deinonychus sparked about dinosaur metabolism. For over a century, dinosaurs were universally considered cold-blooded, or ectothermic slow, sluggish reptiles that depended on the sun for warmth and energy. But the anatomy of Deinonychus simply did not fit this model. Its lightweight skeleton, long legs built for running, and a tail engineered for high-speed agility all pointed to a creature with an incredibly active, energetic lifestyle. This level of athleticism is simply not sustainable with a cold-blooded metabolism. Deinonychus became the key piece of evidence for a radical new idea that many dinosaurs were, in fact, warm-blooded or endothermic. Like modern birds and mammals, is less than -0. One is greater than they generated their own internal heat, sustaining a high metabolism that fueled their dynamic lives. This concept, that dinosaurs were not lumbering evolutionary failures, but fast, active, and successful animals, was the central pillar of the dinosaur renaissance, and Deinonychus was its catalyst. Finally, there is the undeniable and intimate connection to birds. Scientists immediately noticed the stunning number of anatomical similarities between Deinonychus and the earliest known bird, Archaeopteryx. They shared hollow bones, long grasping arms, and a particular half-moon-shaped wrist bone that in modern birds is essential for the flight stroke. The family resemblance was so strong that it led to a bold prediction: that Deinonychus and its relatives must have been covered in feathers. For years, this remained an inference. But then, beginning in the 1990 seconds, a flood of exquisitely preserved fossils from China confirmed this hypothesis beyond any reasonable doubt. Close relatives of Deinonychus, like Sinornithosaurus and Genuine Long, were found covered from head to tail in complex, bird-like feathers, including broad wings on their arms and fans on their tails. While a feathered Deinonychus fossil has yet to be found, the overwhelming evidence from its family tree makes it a near certainty. This was not a scaly monster. It was, for all intents and purposes, a giant, flightless, predatory bird, a creature that forever blurred the line between reptile and avian. The journey of Deinonychus from an extinct animal to an icon of science and cinema is as dramatic as any hunt it ever undertook. Its second life began not with a bang, but with a quiet discovery. The first fossils were unearthed in Montana during the 1930 seconds, but they were fragmentary and misidentified. The bones of this revolutionary creature lay in a museum collection for over 30 years, their profound significance unrecognized. It wasn't until a series of expeditions in the 1960 seconds unearthed more complete and beautifully preserved skeletons that the true nature of this animal was revealed. In 1969, it was formally described and given the name Deinonychus. The scientific paper detailing its anatomy was a bombshell. It presented a creature that was the polar opposite of the established view of dinosaurs. It was fast, not slow, agile, not clumsy, and its biology hinted at an active, warm-blooded metabolism. This description of a dynamic, intelligent predator, backed by rigorous anatomical evidence, was the catalyst for the dinosaur renaissance. Deinonychus became the physical proof that dinosaurs were not evolutionary dead ends, but a vibrant and wildly successful group of animals. It was the dinosaur that made dinosaurs exciting again. Furthermore, its skeleton provided the strongest link yet between dinosaurs and modern birds. The anatomical parallels were too numerous and too precise to be a coincidence. Deinonychus cemented the theory that birds were not just distant cousins of dinosaurs, but are, in fact, living dinosaurs themselves. It fundamentally redrew the family tree of life. This scientific revolution soon found its way into popular culture, and it was a best-selling novel and a blockbuster film that would make Deinonychus a global superstar. The terrifying, hyper-intelligent Velociraptors depicted in Jurassic Park were, in reality, almost entirely based on Deinonychus. The film's creators scaled up its size, borrowing the more dramatic-sounding name from its much smaller cousin. The pack-hunting behavior, the unnerving intelligence, and the lethal sickle claw. All of these were taken directly from the scientific reconstructions of Deinonychus. This portrayal transformed the animal into one of the most recognizable and feared movie monsters of all time. However, this stardom also created a set of enduring myths. The real Deinonychus was not human-sized, but about the size of a wolf. The true Velociraptor was even smaller, no larger than a turkey. And perhaps the biggest inaccuracy was their appearance. The scaly, reptilian skin of the film's raptors is a fiction. Overwhelming fossil evidence from close relatives confirms that Deinonychus would have been covered in a coat of complex feathers, likely with feathered wings on its arms and a fan on its tail. The real creature was far more bird-like and arguably even more fascinating than its cinematic counterpart. Ultimately, Deinonychus boasts a dual legacy. In the halls of science, it is the revolutionary that shattered old paradigms and rewrote our understanding of the deep past. In the realm of popular imagination, it is the terrifying Raptor, a cultural touchstone for millions. Few creatures in the fossil record have had such a profound impact on both scientific truth and popular fiction. Thus, from a few overlooked bones in a museum drawer, science has pieced together the story of Deinonychus, a creature whose scientific impact is far greater than its physical size. We have resurrected not just a mid-sized predator, but a highly intelligent hunter, an agile athlete, and a potential pack animal that thrived in a land of giants. With its terrible claw and counterbalancing tail, it was a masterpiece of predatory evolution, and its discovery was a turning point in our quest to understand the ancient world. The story of Deinonychus is a perfect testament to how one fossil can rewrite history. It almost single-handedly transformed dinosaurs from sluggish, uninteresting reptiles into the dynamic, fascinating ancestors of modern birds. Its bones forced us to reevaluate everything we thought we knew and serves as a constant reminder that the next world-changing discovery could be just under the surface. There are still so many files waiting to be opened, so many truths yet to be unearthed from the stone. Of all the revolutionary ideas that Deinonychus brought to light, from its warm-blooded metabolism to its feathered body, which one changes your view of dinosaurs the most? Let us know in the comments below. To ensure you don't miss our next chronicle of the ancient rulers, make sure you have subscribed and turned on the notification bell. We have followed the journey of the dinosaur that rewrote history. Now it's your turn to choose our next subject. Comment below with the ancient ruler you want to see profiled next, and we will bring it back to life.